Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny, and this is Tier 4 of the Ultimate Paranormal Iceberg chart by Reddit user ManofNope. Thanks, ManofNope. Let's get spooky. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to this channel, and please hit the hype button and give a comment for the algorithm. Thank you. By this point, you should know how iceberg charts work, but to give you a little refresher, as you go deeper and deeper into the iceberg chart, the more obscure and disturbing the entries on the iceberg chart get. We are on the 4th tier, so this should be some pretty obscure, pretty disturbing stuff. Let's get to it. Man Proposes, God Disposes is an 1864 oil painting by Sir Edwin Landseer. It's famous for both its grim subject matter and the urban legend that it is cursed. The painting depicts an imagined scene from the Arctic where two polar bears are ravaging the wreckage of a ship. One bear tears at a tattered Union Jack flag, while the other gnaws on a human ribcage. Yummy. The work was a commentary on the disastrous Franklin expedition of 1844, in which Sir John Franklin and his entire crew of 129 men disappeared while searching for the Northwest Passage. When unveiled, the painting shocked Victorian society. It confirmed their worst fears that the heroic British explorers had not only failed, but had likely fallen victim to nature, and they would later learn cannibalism. The painting hangs in the Royal Holloway of University of London, where it has developed a reputation as a cursed object. There is a myth that a student who took an exam near the painting was driven mad by the image. It's also believed that students that sit directly in front of the painting during an exam fail the exam. Because of the superstitions, the university administration adopted a specific protocol. Since the 1970s, whenever exams are held in the picture gallery, the painting is covered with a large Union Jack flag to protect students from its cursed gaze. The German ghost of Pulau Ubin refers to a local deity worshipped at the German girl's shrine on the island of Pulau Ubin in Singapore. It's a case of cross-cultural folklore where the spirit of a Catholic European colonial has been transferred into a local Taoist deity who is believed to grant good luck in health and gambling. The story is set in 1941, just as World War I broke out. The legend claims a German family owned a coffee plantation on the island. When Britain and Germany went to war, British military forces supposedly came to the island to detain the German nationals. While her parents were captured, the family's 18-year-old daughter fled into the woods in a panic. She became lost and eventually fell to her death from a cliff to a quarry. Her body was later found days later by local plantation owners, covered in ants. Touched by her tragedy, they gave her a burial and covered the site with sand and flowers. Over the decades, the site of her grave has become a place of worship. Her remains were reportedly exhumed and placed in an urn, which was then moved to a permanent shrine near the Katam Quarry. Because the spirit is that of a teenage girl, the offerings left for her are unique. Instead of just incense or fruit, devotees offer cosmetics like lipsticks, nail polish, and perfume. Barbie dolls. There is a Barbie doll that sits on her altar. A legend says an islander who had moved to Australia had the same dream 3 nights in a row where a foreign girl asked him for a Barbie doll. He bought one and shipped it back to the island to be placed on the altar. While the legend is widely accepted folklore, historians have found little evidence to support it. There are no official records of a German family owning a large coffee plantation on the island at the time, nor are there records of a missing German girl from that era. The story might be a conflation of different events or a myth that grew out of the discovery of an old, unmarked European grave on the island. Despite all this, the shrine remains a very popular dark tourism site for locals. The Blarney Stone is globally famous for giving the gift of gab. The lore surrounding it and the castle it sits on has a much darker side involving curses, witches, and bad luck. Don't we all? The most active curse associated with the Blarney Castle doesn't affect people who kiss the stone, but it does affect people who try to take a piece of the castle with them. It's believed that removing any rock, pebble, or piece of masonry from the Blarney Castle estate brings immediate and severe misfortune. The castle administration regularly receives packages from all over the world containing small stones and pebbles. These are returned by regretful tourists who claim that after taking the souvenir, their lives fell apart, citing job losses, sudden illness, and financial ruin. They mail the stones back with apology notes, begging for them to be returned to the ground so the curse could be lifted. The castle grounds are said to be home of a powerful witch who is bound to the land. In the rock close the castle gardens, there is a large boulder that looks like a profile of a face with a hooked nose. Legend says that this is the witch herself, who has been trapped in the stone by a powerful druid or chieftain. Folklore claims she is only imprisoned during the day. At night, she escapes the stone to roam the grounds. Near the stone is a cave structure known as the witch's kitchen. It is said that if you arrive early enough in the morning, you can see the dying embers of the fire she lit the night before to keep warm. Now, the Blarney Stone itself is the main attraction, but the spot where you have to hang upside down to kiss it has its own paranormal reports. Some visitors who have leaned backwards over the sheer drop to kiss the stone have reported seeing a man's face looking up at them. He's described as having a concerned or pained expression, silently mouthing words that cannot be heard. There's a stranger piece of folklore that involves the Martin River, which flows beside the castle. Supposedly it's haunted not by humans, but by ghostly salmon. They can be seen jumping from the water to catch non-existent insects, only to vanish before they hit the water again. Who knew that there could be such delicious ghosts? John F. Kennedy's Lincoln Continental is widely considered to be one of the most cursed objects in American history. The assassination of JFK is a matter of historical record. The limousine has developed a specific paranormal reputation, largely due to its disturbing afterlife. It wasn't destroyed, but it was rebuilt and forced back into service for another 13 years. The car is currently on display at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, where it is the subject of persistent ghost stories. Museum staff and visitors have reported seeing an apparition dressed in gray standing near the car after hours. The sighting is said to be the most frequent in late November, around the anniversary of the assassination. Some employees have claimed to feel an overwhelming sense of dread or a cold presence, specifically near the rear right passenger seat, where Kennedy was sitting when the fatal shots were fired. Much of the vehicle's dark aura comes from the fact that it was kept in service. And a decision that many might probably find disturbing today, the government decided it was too expensive to replace the car. The bloodstained interior was removed, the car was armored, painted black, and given a permanent roof. It remained in the White House fleet until 1977. Lyndon B. Johnson was reportedly deeply uncomfortable riding in it, knowing it was the same vehicle he had been trailing when the shots rang out. Despite this, Presidents Nixon, Ford, and Carter also used it. A verified aspect of the car's lore is the trade in its original parts. During the refurbishment, the blood-stained blue leather upholstery was removed. Rather than being destroyed, materials were discarded or taken by mechanics as souvenirs. Small swatches of the original leather occasionally appear at high-end auctions. In the world of murderabilia, this is considered a highly charged cursed object, allegedly bringing bad luck to those who own them. Amanda the Doll, or Mandy the Doll, is a famous artifact in Canada. Mandy is a cracked porcelain doll made in Germany or England around 1910 to 1920. She currently resides in the Quinzel District Museum in British Columbia, Canada, where she is considered one of the most active haunted dolls in the world, rivaling the famous Robert the Doll in Key West. Mandy was donated to the museum in 1991 by a woman named Mariette. The lore states that the donor was desperate to get rid of the doll because of the terrifying events in her home. The donor told museum staff that whenever the doll was in their house, she would wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of a baby crying in the basement. When she went to investigate, she would find the window near the doll open, even if it had been locked, and the curtains blowing. But no baby was there. The donor claimed that the moment she handed the doll over to the museum, the crying in her home stopped forever. Since arriving at the museum, Mandy has developed a reputation for mischief and malevolence. Don't we all have a reputation for mischief and malevolence? In the early days, staff reported that their lunches would disappear from the refrigerator and reappear tucked into drawers or hidden corners of the museum. Okay, that just sounds like someone's a prankster or stealing other people's lunches, right? Originally, Mandy was placed in a display case with other antique dolls. However, the staff would arrive in the morning to find the other dolls knocked over, their limbs twisted, or their displays in total disarray. While Mandy sat perfectly still. She has since been moved to a solitary glass case. Like many cursed objects, Mandy is said to drain batteries. Visitors often report that their cameras or phones die instantly when they try to take her picture, only to work perfectly again once they leave her presence. The most common report is that Mandy's eyes appear to follow visitors around the room, or that her facial expressions shift from a smile to a sneer when you weren't looking directly at her. Preston Castle in Ione, California is widely considered one of the most haunted locations on the West Coast. Its lore is a mix of documented history involving abuse and unsolved murder, and paranormal claims ranging from apparitions to physical attacks. It opened in 1894. The castle was originally built as a reform school for boys. While its Romanesque revival architecture was grand and intended to inspire rehabilitation, life inside was notoriously harsh. The school housed juvenile offenders, orphans, and wards of the state. They lived under strict, almost military-like regimen. Historical records and former wards have described severe punishments, including public lashings, isolation, and even a lye pool where new arrivals were allegedly forced to swim as a form of disinfection or hazing. Several wards died from diseases like tuberculosis and the 1918 flu epidemic. A cemetery on the grounds holds the remains of at least 23 boys who died while in custody. The most famous ghost story attached to the castle centers on Anna Corbin, the school's head housekeeper. On February 23, 1950, Anna was found brutally beaten to death in the basement kitchen storage room. Several wards were suspected and tried for the crime, but after multiple hung juries, no one was ever convicted. Her murder remains officially unsolved. Anna is arguably the castle's most famous ghost. Visitors and staff also report seeing a woman in a 1950s-style floral dress or housekeeper's uniform roaming the halls, smelling perfume described as rose or lavender in areas where no one is present, and feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness or being watched in the kitchen area where a body was found. Some paranormal investigators claim to have captured electronic voice phenomena of a woman saying, "Help me." Several other spirits are said to inhabit the castle. A ward who was shot and killed by a guard named Sam Goins in 1918 while trying to escape is often associated with the upper floors of the tower. The angry guard is a malevolent spirit believed to be a former guard is said to haunt the boys' dormitory areas. Visitors have reported being shoved, scratched, or feeling a heavy pressure on their chests in these rooms. And there are shadow people. Many guests on tours report seeing dark shadow figures darting between the rooms, particularly in the infirmary or in the basement. The castle is known for high levels of physical activity during investigations. It's common for visitors to report having their hair pulled or feeling cold hands touch their arms. Footsteps on empty staircases and the sound of boys laughing or crying are also reported. The castle was closed in 1960, but the Preston Castle Foundation owns the property and offers historical and paranormal tours, embracing its reputation to fund restoration efforts. And it's good that these spooky areas realize that there's a lot of people who want to see this stuff and that they can make money to restore the place and keep history alive by letting us weirdos run around and hunt ghosts. The Great Wall of China's ghosts. The Great Wall of China is often considered by historians as the longest cemetery on Earth, and it's estimated that over 1 million laborers died during its construction, and many were buried within the foundations of the wall itself to act as filler. That's gross. Besides this massive death toll, the wall is the subject of centuries of ghost lore, ranging from ancient curses to modern reports from hikers on the Wild Wall. The most famous ghost story associated with the wall is that during the Qin dynasty, a woman named Meng Jingnu's husband was conscripted to build the wall just days after their wedding. When she didn't hear from him for months, she traveled thousands of miles to bring him warm clothes for the winter. Upon arriving, she was told that her husband had died from exhaustion and had been buried inside the wall. Overcome with grief, she wept at the foot of the wall for days. Legend says her sorrow was so powerful that a massive 400-mile section of the wall suddenly collapsed, revealing bones of thousands of dead laborers. She cut her finger and let her blood drip onto the bones. The blood flowed over the others, but soaked into one specific skeleton, allowing her to identify her husband. The Wild Wall refers to the unrestored, overgrown sections of the wall that are popular with hikers and urban explorers. This is where most modern paranormal activity is reported. Hikers frequently report hearing the sound of synchronized, heavy marching footsteps on the stone, even when they are miles away from any other living person. There are reports of phenomena where hikers feel that they are being physically pushed or hurted by invisible forces, as if spectral guards are trying to move them along or clear the path. A specific area north of Beijing is known for causing sudden, inexplicable nausea and vertigo in travelers, while locals attribute this to restless spirits of laborers who died falling from the sheer cliffs during the construction. The Manila Film Center is famously known as the Parthenon of the Philippines, because it's also a massive concrete tomb. Its haunted reputation stems from a horrific industrial disaster in 1981 where dozens of construction workers were allegedly buried alive in quick-drying cement to meet a deadline set by First Lady Imelda Marcos. On November 17, 1981, the tragedy happened. The building was the centerpiece of Imelda Marcos' dream to make Manila the Cannes of the East. She ordered the construction of the Grand Film Center to host the first Manila International Film Festival in January 1982. To meet the impossible deadline, over 4,000 laborers worked in 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. At around 3 a.m. on November 17th, the scaffolding of the upper floor collapsed under the weight of the wet cement. An entire section of the floor fell into the orchestra level below, taking over 100 workers down with it. This is where the horror comes from. Survivors and witnesses claim that many workers were trapped up to their waists or necks in the quick drying cement, creating a human foundation to the building. Legend says that because the deadline was so tight, Imelda Marcos or her contractors ordered that the bodies of the trapped workers not be retrieved if it meant delaying. Instead, the story goes that fresh concrete was poured over the victims, effectively sealing them in the foundation of the building. A particularly gruesome detail in local urban legends is that workers who were half buried had their protruding limbs sawed off so the floor could be leveled more quickly. Immediate blackout was imposed immediately. Police cordoned off the area, and rescues were allegedly delayed for 9 hours. The official death toll was listed as 7, but search and rescue teams and hospital records suggest the number was closer to 169. Since opening in 1982, the building has been plagued by reports of restless spirits. Visitors and staff have reported a pungent, rotting smell in the backstage areas and corridors that no amount of cleaning can remove. This is believed to be the scent of the decaying bodies entombed in the walls. Witnesses have claimed to see red liquids seeping from the cracks in the walls. In the 1990s, a famous paranormal group called the Spirit Questers gained permission to enter the abandoned building. They claimed to have made contact with the spirits, who were confused and angry, unaware that they were dead. The lore was further cemented in Filipino pop culture by the 2009 book and later film Tragic Theater. It's based on the accounts of the Spirit Questers' visit, depicting a seance that goes wrong when the spirits of the workers possess the medians. The Sunnyvale Toys R Us is a haunted Toys R Us. I actually did a video discussing this. If you want to go watch it, I suggest you go watch it after you watch this video. Before Toys R Us went bankrupt, this specific store was considered one of the most haunted retail locations in America. And it's unique because unlike most haunted sites that are feared, the ghost was considered to be a celebrity and a bit of a prankster. The spirit haunting the store is affectionately known as Johnny. The lore claims that in the 1880s, the land was a farm and orchard owned by the prominent Murphy family. Johnny was a young farmhand who fell in love with the owner's daughter, Elizabeth Murphy. The story goes that Elizabeth did not return his feelings. Distraught, Johnny was chopping wood in the orchard when he slipped, drove the axe into his leg, and bled to death on the exact spot where the Toys R Us were later built. The haunting became nationally famous in the early 1980s thanks to the TV show That's Incredible. The show brought out celebrity psychic Sylvia Browne, who, Sylvia Browne has a bit of an interesting reputation, who held a televised seance in the store's aisles. She claimed to communicate with Johnny, describing him as a confused spirit who didn't realize he was dead. None of these spirits realize that they're dead. During the filming, a photographer used infrared film to capture a now famous image. It appeared to show a young man in period clothing leaning casually against a shelf of toys watching the seance. The photograph remains one of the most circulated pieces of ghost evidence from the pre-internet era. For decades, employees and shoppers reported specific phenomena attributed to Johnny. Johnny was known for being mischievous rather than malevolent. Someday, I hope I'm described as more mischievous than I am malevolent. He would supposedly unravel toilet paper rolls in the restroom, turning on faucets, and bounce balls down the empty aisles. Female employees frequently reported feeling someone stroke stroke their long hair or blow gently onto their necks while they were stocking shelves alone. Crying baby dolls would allegedly turn on by themselves in unison, or dolls would be found rearranged on shelves in strange positions overnight. While the story is a great story, who doesn't love the idea of a haunted Toys R Us? Historical records debunk most of it. The real Elizabeth Murphy died in 1875, years before Johnny was said to be working on the farm. There are no death records or employment records for a Johnny Johnson or similar man dying on the Murphy estate during that time period. The Toys R Us closed in 2018. In a delightful twist, the building temporarily served as a Spirit Halloween store, the greatest store ever, before being converted into an REI. Former employees of the REI have occasionally reported strange occurrences suggesting that Johnny might still be there. The Hull House in Chicago is one of the most significant sites in American history for social reform. It was founded by Jane Addams in 1889. It's famous for the legend of the Devil Baby. Unlike many haunted locations where the ghosts are vague, Hull House has a very specific folklore attached to it that reflects the hardships of the immigrant women who sought refuge there. In 1913, a rumor swept through Chicago's near west side that a devil baby had been brought to Jane Addams for asylum. A devout Catholic woman tried to hang a picture of the Virgin Mary, but her atheist husband tore it down, shouting that he would rather have the devil in his house than the picture. And then the woman gives birth to a child with cloven hooves, pointed ears, a tail, and miniature horns. The baby is said to be able to speak profanities almost immediately after birth, like most kids these days if they're on the internet. The story caused mass hysteria. For 6 weeks, thousands of people flocked to the Hull House, offering money to see the monster. Jane Addams was forced to constantly turn people away, explaining that no such child existed. Addams later wrote that while the baby wasn't real, the story was real to the women of the neighborhood. It served as a tragic morality tale or coping mechanism for women dealing with abusive husbands and the harsh realities of poverty, a way to externalize their suffering into a physical monster. Before the Devil Baby, the house was already considered haunted by the original owner's wife, Millicent Hull. Millicent died of an illness in her bedroom in 1860. Early residents reported seeing a woman in white wandering the halls or standing near the bedroom window. Even Jane Addams, who was pretty level-headed, admitted to hearing strange footsteps in the room and eventually moved out of it because of the odd atmosphere. Most of the original 13-building complex was demolished in the 1960s to build the University of Illinois Chicago, UIC, but the original Hull mansion remains as a museum. It is still widely considered one of the most haunted buildings in Chicago, with staff reporting moved objects, motion sensors going off in empty rooms, and the lingering smell of roses. The Hellfire Caves are a network of man-made chalk and flint mines extending a quarter of a mile underground in West Wycombe, England. They're infamous for being the secret meeting place of the Hellfire Club, an 18th century society of high-ranking aristocrats and politicians who gathered in the caves for drinking, debauchery, and mock pagan rituals. You know, like we all do. The caves were excavated between 1748 and 1750 by Sir Francis Dashwood, where he publicly claimed the project was a charitable act to provide work for unemployed locals. His true intention was to build a private underground playground for a secret society. The group that met there never actually called themselves the Hellfire Club. That name was given to them later. They called themselves the Order of the Friars of St. Francis of Wycombe. Doesn't really roll off the tongue quite like the Hellfire Club. The club included some of the most powerful men in Britain, including the First Lord of the Admiralty, the son of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and even Benjamin Franklin during his time in England. Despite the satanic rumors, the club was likely more about mockery and hedonism than it was about devil worship. They dressed as monks, while the women they brought in were dressed as nuns. They drank, feasted, and conducted parodies of Catholic masses. The entrance to the original meeting place bore the inscription, "Fay se que voldras, do what thou wilt," a phrase that was later adopted by occultist Aleister Crowley. Dashwood designed the caves to be a symbolic journey into the underworld. The tunnels are narrow and wind deep into the hill, passing through specifically named chambers. The banqueting hall, which is the largest chamber where the members feasted and drank. To reach the final chamber, members had to cross a small subterranean river. Originally, there was a small boat used to ferry them across. Then there was the inner temple, which was located directly beneath the local church on the top of the hill. This was the most exclusive room where only the highest ranking members were allowed. The caves are considered highly active by paranormal investigators. Suki, the White Lady, is the most famous ghost. Suki was a local chambermaid who wanted to marry a wealthy aristocrat. Legend says that she was tricked into meeting a man in the caves, thinking it was a secret rendezvous. Instead, it was a prank by local boys who threw stones at her. In the chaos, she was struck in the head and died. Visitors reported seeing a woman in a white dress wandering the banqueting hall, searching for her lover. Poveglia. Poveglia is a small abandoned island located in the Venetian lagoon, just a few miles from the glamorous canals of Venice. It's widely considered the most haunted island in the world. I also did a video on Poveglia. You should go watch it after you're done watching this video. Its history is so traumatic, spanning centuries of plague, madness, and torture, that locals are said to refuse to step foot on it, and fishermen avoid casting nets nearby for fear of dredging up human bones. The island's dark reputation began during the bubonic plague. When the plague struck Venice, the city used Poveglia as a quarantine station. It became a dumping ground for the dying. Anyone showing the slightest symptoms was dragged from their home and shipped to the island to die. The death toll was so high that bodies could not be buried fast enough. Giant pyres were built to burn the dead day and night. It's estimated that 160,000 people died on the island during the various plague outbreaks. A grim local legend claims that because of this massive amount of burnings, 50% of the island's soil is composed of human ash. After centuries of being a mass grave, the island was repurposed in 1922 as a mental asylum. The central figure of Poveglia's ghost lore is a sadistic doctor who ran the asylum in the 1930s. Legend says he was obsessed with finding a cure for insanity and performed brutal, crude lobotomies on patients against their will, using hand drills and hammers without anesthesia. The story goes that the doctor eventually began to hear the voices of plague ghosts himself, and it was driven mad and threw himself off the island's bell tower. The island has been abandoned since 1968, but the structures like the hospital, the church, and the bell tower all remain. One of the few specific ghosts named by visitors is a little girl who stands on the shoreline crying, looking towards Venice, presumably separated from her parents during the plague. Although the bell was removed from the bell tower decades ago, locals claim that they can hear it on quiet nights, tolling across the water. Visiting the island is illegal, but thrill seekers who sneak in report being scratched, pushed, or feeling an overwhelming urge to flee immediately upon landing. The Italian government has attempted to auction off the island for redevelopment, such as a luxury hotel, but there hasn't been any deals struck. There is an ongoing push now to turn Poveglia into a local common space for the people who live there. The KiMo Theater in Albuquerque, New Mexico is one of the most unique landmarks in the American Southwest, famous for its Pueblo Deco architecture. However, it's also famous for its resident ghost, a 6-year-old boy named Bobby Darnall. The haunting is unique because, unlike many scary ghosts, the staff treats Bobby less like a spirit and more like a mischievous child who must be babysat to keep the show running. On August 2nd, 1951, the KiMo was packed for a matinee showing of the Abbott Costello film Coming Round the Mountain. About 15 minutes into the movie, the theater's massive water heater in the lobby exploded. The blast was powerful enough to blow a hole through the reinforced concrete wall and demolish part of the balcony. Bobby Darnall, a 6-year-old boy, had been frightened by the scene in the movie and had run out to the lobby to wait for his friends. He was standing near the concession stand when the boiler exploded, killing him. After the theater was restored and reopened in the late 1970s, staff and performers began reporting strange occurrences that seemed childish in nature. Performers would find props moved, lights flickering during crucial scenes, and doors locking and unlocking by themselves. If the cast or crew was disrespectful or dismissed the ghost story, the pranks would turn dangerous. Light bulbs would explode, cables would snap, and actors would trip on stage for no reason. Visitors have reported seeing a young boy in a striped shirt and blue jeans playing on the lobby staircase, only to vanish when approached. The most famous aspect of the KiMo haunting is a specific ritual to appease Bobby. Hidden behind the projection booth is a small shrine dedicated to Bobby. Before every performance, the crew leaves an offering of donuts and toys at the shrine. Who knew? Ghosts love donuts. It's widely believed by the local theater community that if you forget the donuts, the performance will go wrong. There are numerous anecdotes of skepticism leading to disaster. Performances where the sound system died instantly, or the fire curtain dropped in the middle of a monologue, all attributed to a tantrum by Bobby because he didn't get his donuts. The Conjured chest is a mahogany chest of drawers currently residing in the Kentucky History Center in Frankfort. It's considered one of the few genuine cursed objects in American history where the curse was intentionally placed via a ritual rather than being a result of a random tragedy. The story begins on the plantation of a wealthy and cruel slave owner named Jacob Cooley in Kentucky. Cooley ordered one of his enslaved men, a skilled craftsman named Hosea, to build a chest of drawers for Cooley's first child, who was due to be born soon. When Hosea presented the finished chest, Cooley was reportedly displeased with the craftsmanship. In a fit of rage, he beat Hosea to death in front of the other enslaved workers. The other enslaved people on the plantation were obviously devastated by the murder, so they decided to seek revenge. They turned to a conjure man, who is a practitioner of hoodoo, to place a death curse on the object. According to the lore, they sprinkled dried owl blood and a conjure bag inside the drawers, cursing the firstborn child of anyone who used the chest. For generations, the chest stayed in the family, and the curse reportedly claimed the victims of 17 people. Jacob Cooley's firstborn son died in infancy shortly after his clothes were stored in the chest. Over the next century, the pattern continued. Whenever the chest was passed to a new family member or used to store clothing, a death, usually a child or a firstborn son, would follow soon after. One famous story involves a woman who didn't believe the legend. She decided to use the chest to store wedding clothes. Her husband died on their wedding day or shortly thereafter, and her firstborn child died soon after that. The killing spree reportedly ended in 1946. The chest eventually came into the possession of Virginia Cummings, a descendant of the Cooley family. She knew the history and was terrified of the object. She consulted a local conjure woman named Aunt Ellen to lift the curse. Aunt Ellen told her to break the hex, she had to scrub the chest inside and out with a mixture of vinegar and willow leaves, then leave it open to the sunlight for a specific number of days. Virginia followed the instructions and the deaths in the family reportedly stopped. The chest was donated to the Kentucky Historical Society in 1976 by Virginia Cummings. It remains on display today. Museum staff have not reported any deaths associated with it since it arrived, but many visitors claim to feel a sense of nausea or dread when standing near it. The museum keeps the drawers closed, just in case. The Poltergeist clown is one of the most recognizable horror props in cinema history. Unlike Annabelle or Robert the Doll, which are real-world objects that inspired movies, the lore of the Poltergeist clown is reversed. It's a movie prop that has become legendary because of the curse that plagued the film set. The haunted lore surrounding this doll focuses on the fact that it almost killed the child actor in real life. In the film, the clown doll drags the kid under the bed and attempts to strangle him. The doll was a puppet animatronic that was controlled by wires and mechanics. During the take where the clown's arm wraps around the neck of actor Oliver Robbins, the mechanism malfunctioned. The robotic arm tightened too much and locked in place. Robbins began to scream, "I can't breathe." Director Tobe Hooper and producer Steven Spielberg initially thought Robbins was improvising a brilliant, terrifying performance. They kept the cameras rolling. It was only when Robbins' face began to turn blue and he started gagging for real that Spielberg realized something was wrong. He pushed over and physically tore the puppet off the boy's neck. The clown incident is often cited as Exhibit A in the theory that the movie The Poltergeist was a cursed production. So where are the dolls now? Well, there were several clown dolls that were made for the film. One of the original dolls was reportedly acquired by Planet Hollywood and displayed at their Caesars Palace location in Las Vegas. Employees there have claimed that the doll is active. Staff have reported coming in to clean the display and case and finding the doll in a different position than it was left or facing a different direction. There are rumors that security cameras near the clown doll's case frequently glitch or shut off without explanation. Other versions of the prop are in private hands. In 2020, Ghost Adventures host Zach Baggins acquired one of the clown dolls for his haunted museum in Las Vegas. Since its arrival, visitors have claimed to feel intense dread while looking at it. Annabelle film set being haunted. While the Annabelle movies feature a terrifying porcelain doll designed for the screen, the sets of the franchise were reportedly plagued by inexplicable accidents that mirrored the horror in the scripts. The cast and crew have gone on record stating that the energy on the set was so disturbing that producers eventually made it a mandatory policy to have a Catholic priest bless the set before filming began. During the filming of the first movie, director John Leonetti reported a chilling discovery that perfectly aligned with the film's demon. In the movie's lore, the demon attached to the doll is often represented by 3 fingers, or claws. Leonetti claimed that one night he went to a location on set where they were preparing to shoot. On a dusty window high up in the living room set, he found 3 distinct finger marks drawn in the dust. He noted that the marks were seemingly drawn from outside the glass, despite it being a second-story window. The most dangerous incident on the first film set involved a massive lighting fixture that nearly killed an actor. The crew is preparing to film a sequence where the demon kills the building's janitor in a hallway. An actor playing the janitor was walking towards his mark when a giant glass light fixture detached from the ceiling and crashed down, shattering exactly where he was standing just seconds before. Producer Peter Safran noted the terrifying irony. In the script, the demon kills the janitor in the exact hallway. It was totally weird. During the filming of Annabelle Comes Home, child actress McKenna Grace, who played Judy Warren, experienced physical phenomena that frightened her. In the film, her character experiences a nosebleed as a sign of psychic distress. On set, Grace suddenly developed an unprompted nosebleed that would not stop. Ghost Adventures Houdini Seance Polaroid. The Ghost Adventures Houdini Seance Polaroid refers to a specific piece of visual evidence presented in Season 29, Episode 2, The Houdini Seance, which aired in April 2025. It is one of the most controversial and dramatic pieces of evidence in the show's history because it involves the spirit of Harry Houdini, a man who famously spent his life debunking spiritualists and seances. The Ghost Adventures crew investigated the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. The investigation took place on the 100th anniversary of Houdini's historic midnight visit to the mansion. Seance included Zach Bagans, the crew psychic medium Patty Negri, and George Hardin, Harry Houdini's great-nephew. During the climax of the episode, the team conducted a seance to summon the magician. To avoid digital manipulation claims, they used an analog Polaroid camera. The resulting photograph allegedly shows beams of white light or spirit energy physically connecting to the people at the table. Zach Bagans claimed the photo specifically shows a stream of energy linking George Hardin, the relative, directly to the rest of the group, which he interpreted as Houdini using his nephew as a conduit to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Some viewers and crew members also claimed that the light anomaly seemed to originate from or interact from the empty chair reserved for Houdini. As with most Ghost Adventures evidence, the photo has been heavily scrutinized online. Photographers have pointed out that the Polaroid film is sensitive to pressure and light leaks. The beams of energy look consistent with light leaking into the camera rollers or chemical spread issues, which are often called drag lines. Skeptics argue that since the room was dark and there were other light sources, such as equipment LEDs, exit signs, and reflections, the energy was likely a long exposure light trail caused by the camera moving while the shutter was open. The Uluru Rock Curse is a modern phenomenon surrounding Uluru in the Northern Territory of Australia. It's pretty similar to the Blarney Stone or Pele's Curse in Hawaii. Tourists who steal rocks or sand from sacred sites as souvenirs reportedly suffer extreme misfortune until the stolen items are routine. The park roughly receives 1 package per day containing returned rock, sand, or pebbles. These are colloquially known as sari rocks. Inside the packages are apology letters detailing the misery the thief has endured since taking the rock. Reports include sudden illnesses, relationship failures, financial ruins, and in some extreme cases, death. Harold the Doll. Harold is widely considered the first viral haunted object of the internet age. He is a vintage composition doll manufactured in the 1930s that gained global infamy after being auctioned on eBay in 2003. His sale launched the modern phenomenon for cursed memorabilia in the online marketplace. The legend began when a seller named Greg listed the doll on eBay. Greg claimed he bought the doll at a flea market from an old man who warned him it was bad news and responsible for his son's death. Greg didn't believe the man, but after bringing the doll home, he claimed his life fell apart. His cat died, his girlfriend left him, and he began suffering from chronic migraines. Sounds like a country song. He listed the doll just to get it out of the house. The auction went viral, and the doll was eventually purchased by Anthony Quinata for $300. Quinata, who is a paranormal investigator, initially bought it as a skeptic intending to debunk the story. As Quinata took possession of the doll, he claimed that the curse was real and far more dangerous than he anticipated. Quinata and visitors to his home reported unexplicable bruises and scratches appearing on their bodies after being near the doll. One claim is that if you hold Harold, you can feel a faint rhythmic pulse in the plastic composition of his body. Observers frequently claim that Harold's facial expression shifts from a neutral, worn look to a sinister smirk. A chilling modern addition to the lore, which is detailed in Quinata's book, involves Vincent, an autistic child who encountered the doll. According to Quinata, the child looked at the doll and said clearly, "It's not a real doll, Mommy. It wants you to think it's a girl's doll, but it's not. It has a black heart." Following the encounter, the family reported severe poltergeist activity and demonic possession in their home, which they blamed on the entity attached to Harold. Harold is still privately owned by Anthony Quinata. For many years, Quinata kept the doll in a storage unit, double boxed and blessed, stating that the activity in his home had become too dangerous to keep him there. He occasionally brings the doll to paranormal conventions, but he enforces strict rules. You must not mock the doll, and he often advises people not to take photos, warning that the curse can attach to those who disrespect it. Koh-i-Noor is one of the largest cut diamonds in the world and currently sits in the Tower of London as part of the British Crown Jewels. It's infamous for carrying a lethal curse that is so specific and historically consistent that the British royal family still adheres to its rules today. The curse dates back to a Hindu text from 1306, which allegedly states, "He who owns the diamond will own the world, but will also know all its misfortunes. Only God or a woman can wear it with impunity. The rule is simple. Any man who wears or owns the diamond will suffer a tragic end." For centuries, the history of the diamond seems to validate the curse. Every male ruler who possessed it lost his throne or his life. Shah Jahan was a Mughal emperor who built the Taj Mahal. He placed the diamond in his famous peacock throne. Shortly after, his own son overthrew him and imprisoned him in a fort for the rest of his life. Legend says that the diamond was placed near a window so Shah could only see the Taj Mahal through its reflection. Nader Shah was a Persian conqueror who stole the diamond from India in 1739. He was assassinated by his own guards while he slept. Dulip Singh was the last Maharaja of the Sheikh Empire. He was only a child when the British forced him to sign the Treaty of Lahore in 1849, surrendering the diamond to Queen Victoria. He lost his kingdom and was separated from his mother and lived the rest of his life in exile in England, dying in poverty and obscurity. When the diamond arrived in England, the British royal family took the curse seriously. Because the curse specifies only a woman could wear it with impunity, the stone was initially worn by Queen Victoria as a brooch. Since then, it has never been set in a king's crown. It was set in the crowns of Queen Alexandra, Queen Mary, and finally the Queen Mother, Elizabeth II's mother, in 1937. The last time the diamond was seen publicly was atop the Queen Mother's coffin during her funeral in 2002. The Demon House of Gary, Indiana. This is another one that I did a video on that you should go watch after you're done watching this. The Demon House of Gary, Indiana is a well-documented modern haunting case in the United States. What makes the case unique that government officials, including police captains, DCS caseworkers, and hospital staff, went on official record stating they witnessed supernatural phenomena. The events began in November 2011 when LaToya Ammons, her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children moved into the small rental home. Almost immediately, the family reported disturbances. In the dead of winter, the screened-in porch was swarmed by thousands of black flies. Even when they killed them, the swarm would return in equal numbers the next day. The family heard heavy footsteps climbing the basement stairs and opening the door, even when the door was locked. The 12-year-old daughter was reportedly levitated above her bed, and the 7-year-old son was found talking to an invisible boy in the closet who told him about what it feels like to die. The case gained international attention because of the involvement of skeptics who became believers. A DCS case manager named Valerie Washington and a nurse were investigating the home for potential child neglect. According to the official DCS report, Washington witnessed a 9-year-old boy walk backwards up a wall and onto the ceiling, landing on his feet. She was so terrified she refused to re-enter the home. When the children were taken to a local hospital for evaluation, staff reported that a 7-year-old boy began growling in a demonic voice and was physically thrown into a wall by an invisible force. Gary Police Captain Charles Austin, who was a 36-year veteran and skeptic, visited the home. and later stated that his police radio malfunctioned, his car seat moved on his own, and he took a photo of the house that appeared to show a shadowy figure in the window. He left the investigation stating, "I am a believer." The family contacted Father Michael Margineau, a local Catholic priest. After interviewing the family and witnessing the lights flickering when he mentioned God, he petitioned the Bishop of Gary for permission to perform an exorcism. This was the first time in decades that the Catholic Church officially sanctioned a major exorcism in that diocese. Father Margineau performed 3 major exorcisms on LaToya Ammons, claiming she convulsed and spoke in different languages during the rites. The Moffitt family haunting is a severe and well-documented haunting that took place in Southern California from the late 1980s to the early 1990s. It's unique because of the high volume of physical evidence the family claims to have preserved, specifically photographs of messages written on mirrors and walls, and the distinct personality of the spirit, who referred to himself as Mr. Entity. The haunting centers on Deborah Moffitt, her husband Lee, and their daughter Jessica. The trouble reportedly began with Lee's elderly mother. According to the family's account, she was declining in health, and her caretaker performed an ancient ritual, possibly some sort of Santeria or folk magic variation, intending to heal her. The ritual allegedly opened a doorway for a demonic entity. The family believes the entity was attached to the bloodline, specifically claiming that Lee Moffitt had been promised to it as a sacrifice by the ancestor or through a past life pact. Unlike silent ghosts, the entity was incredibly communicative and aggressive. The haunting escalated when a message appeared on a bathroom mirror in soap, simply reading, "Talk to me." Over the next 6 years, the entity had continuous conversations with the family by writing on mirrors, walls, and foggy windows. The family would ask questions and the entity would write back answers almost instantly. The most distinctive aspect of this haunting is the soap. The entity would allegedly carve intricate symbols, words, or threats directly onto bars of soap in the bathroom. And these weren't scratches. They were deep, precise carvings that appeared while the family was in the house but not in the room. The haunting shifted from communicative to life-threatening. Objects would materialize out of thin air. The family reported coins, trinkets, and eventually weapons appearing in locked rooms. In one account, the family claimed a tribal spear materialized and embedded itself in a bed, which they interpreted as a death threat. Fair. Kitchen knives were frequently thrown across the room or found stuck into headboards or mattresses. Mr. Entity eventually demanded that Deborah perform a blood ritual involving her husband Lee to complete the pact. When she refused, the violence intensified. The Moffitt family kept the haunting a secret for over 25 years, fearing ridicule or that the entity would follow them if they spoke about it too publicly. In 2014 and 2015, Deborah Moffitt finally broke her silence, releasing the books A Deadly Haunting and Unwelcome. These books included photos of the mirror writings and soap carvings. In 2022, Blumhouse Production acquired the rights to the Moffitt family story and their archive of evidence to develop a movie or series, tentatively titled Mr. Entity. LiDAR machines shoot millions of laser pulses per second at the ground and measure how long it takes for them to bounce back. This creates an incredibly precise 3D map of the surface. LiDAR is often used in modern paranormal investigation shows. Newer investigations often use LiDAR sensors that are now available on pro-level iPhones and iPads. The theory is that investigators use it to map a room in real time. If a spirit has mass or disrupts light, the LiDAR will map a figure that isn't visible to the naked eye. Jane Harris's haunted Marionette, which is often referred to as the Old Man, is a haunted object where the claim to fame is not just a story, but a specific piece of viral video footage captured under controlled conditions. It gained global notoriety in 2015 when investigator Jane Harris of HD Paranormal in the UK released night vision footage of the puppet appearing to move inside a sealed glass container. The puppet is an eerie elderly male marionette made of wood and wire. It was originally owned by a man identified only as John from the UK. John inherited the puppet from his father in the 1960s. It sat in his house for years without incident until after his father's death. John claimed that one night he woke up to the sensation of hands tightening around his throat. He was being choked. John claimed that as he gasped for air, he looked over the bedside table and saw the marionette sitting there staring at him. He was convinced the spirit attached to the doll was trying to kill him. Terrified, he contacted Jane Harris to take it away. Jane Harris, who is a specialist in haunted dolls. I guess there are specialists in haunted dolls. And she discovered Peggy the doll, took the puppet and placed it in a sealed glass cabinet in her basement to isolate it from drafts or extreme manipulation. She set up a night vision camera to record the puppet 24/7 for 3 months. One night, the camera captured the puppet's wooden control bar, the cross-shaped handle used to move the strings, slowly lifting up on its own. After hovering for a moment, the heavy wooden cross slammed forcefully against the glass pane of the cabinet. Harris has argued that because the cabinet was sealed and the puppet was alone in a locked cabinet, there was no rational explanation for the heavy wooden cross to lift and throw itself against the glass. Through sessions with a medium, Harris and her team believe the spirit attached to the puppet is a disgruntled elderly man. Unlike child spirits, which are common in doll hauntings, the entity is described as a bitter and malevolent. The puppet is currently kept in a blessed container to prevent further attacks, as Harris considers it unsafe to be left out in the open. Artemis Fractal is a recent addition to the world of cursed objects, gaining notoriety in late 2025. It's an oil painting by Bill Stoneham, the same artist responsible for the Hands Resistant. Artemis Fractal features Stoneham's signature style, depicting a figure, sometimes a child or doll-like entity, interacting with complex geometric or fractal patterns that look like portals or distortions to reality. In August 2025, Zach Baggins announced he had acquired the painting for his haunted museum in Las Vegas. Since its arrival at the museum, Artemis Fractal has reportedly displayed immediate and aggressive paranormal activity, surpassing even the original hands resist him in terms of physical reactions. The most reported phenomenon is fainting. Multiple visitors and staff members have reportedly collapsed within seconds of entering the room where the painting is displayed. Baggins has claimed that people who view the painting for too long have left the room to find unexplainable red marks, scratches, or geometric-looking rashes on their skin. To be fair, I get rashes all the time. So if one of these popped up, I probably wouldn't even think of it as being from a haunted object. Baggins himself stated that upon bringing the painting into his home, he felt an immediate heavy oppression and illness that lifted only when the object was removed. Mexico City International Airport is one of the most haunted airport in Latin America. Its lore is unique because of video evidence captured by security staff and police who patrol the graveyard of planes. The most active paranormal zone is located at the far end of the AICM runways. This is where decommissioned, seized, or wrecked aircraft are stored before being scrapped. Security guards and maintenance workers who patrol the area at night frequently report seeing shadows moving inside the empty fuselages. The most famous piece of evidence comes from a security guard named Francisco Hernandez. While inspecting an empty plane at 3 a.m. after hearing noises, he filmed a dark shadow figure peering out from the gallery aisle. The figure ducks back into the darkness as soon as lights hits it. The video is often cited as definitive proof of the phantom maintenance worker or shadow entities guarding the wrecks. The most enduring legend of the airport is La Nina, the girl of Terminal 1. It's a spirit frequently seen in Terminal 1 in the restricted maintenance areas. The story involves security guards who spot a little girl playing with a ball in a restricted area. When they approach to scold her for being alone, she asks them to tie her shoelaces. When the guard kneels down to help and looks back up, she has vanished. Mechanics working night shifts often report hearing the distinct sound of a rubber ball bouncing in the empty hangars, followed by the giggling of a child. There's also a recent viral event that occurred earlier this year at the new Felipe Angeles International Airport. In February 2025, security footage from the airport parking lot leaked online, and it appears to show a girl moving in a disturbing, erratic way. This entity is described as having backwood arms, all black eyes, and moving with a jerky, unnatural gait. It's been widely debated on social media as being a cryptid or demon rather than just a human ghost. And that is tier 4 of the ultimate paranormal Iceberg by Reddit user ManofNope. Thanks, ManofNope. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Like, share, and comment on this video, as well as hit the hype button to help me out with the algorithm. Follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, and TikTok. My username is The Spooky Lawyer. If there's a spooky or disturbing story you would like me to cover, leave a comment and tell me about it. Or send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to make a donation to support the channel, there is a link in the description box of this video or in my bio to buy me a coffee so you can buy me a coffee. Or you can become a member of this channel. For $1.99, you can get access to exclusive content, including exclusive videos. And I do have videos that are exclusive for members up there, as well as access to my videos before they go public. I appreciate you considering this. You can also support me by liking, sharing, hitting the hype button, and watching my videos. And I really do appreciate that you watch my videos. And please stay spooky.